metrics of the site itself, telling
Yep.
you like the DA, it'll pull in contact information that it finds.
They always try to find the hacks in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather spend the time to send 50 emails than 200 emails, right? Where I can
So
put something a little personalized that makes it stand out in the inbox a bit.
I believe a lot has been changed since the AI has come through, but the basics are always the same. Hello and welcome to the Agency Growth Lab. I'm your host Rohindu, and today we are thrilled to have a very special guest joining us, Vince Nero, who is the director of content marketing at BuzzStream. And Vince is also a renowned expert in digital marketing, a speaker, and an SEO, of course. So Vince is here today to share his insights and experiences with us. So welcome to the show, Vince. How are you?
Yeah, Rowan, thanks so much for joining. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm doing well. It's early for me, late for you, but let's do it. I'm pumped to talk.
Yeah. Nah, I can imagine like 8 a.m. in the morning for you. You
I
guys are
got my
just
coffee. It's good. It's all good.
all right. So now, Vince, just really quickly, can you just tell us a bit about your journey? How did you get started in the digital marketing industry as such?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually went to music school back in the day. I played the saxophone. Went to school in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
After graduating, I realized I needed a more consistent paycheck. I thought I was going to do advertising. I actually took a bunch of courses at NYU for advertising, and um, I just kind of fell into a pretty normal, like entry level job doing marketing work
Oh, yeah.
in the tech sector with a lot of startups in New York City. So I was able to like talk to a lot of startups, and I was reading all these marketing books, and I started doing just kind of like freelance work. And I was like, man, this like some of this is very intuitive. I think the problem that a lot of people struggle with in marketing is just they get too lost in whatever they're doing, and they just need like an outside voice. And so I was like, this works. And then I think what really set me off to the course that I've been in the past 8 years. It's funny. Brian Dean used to
Yep.
own Backlinko. He had
Yep.
a course called SEO That Works
SEO.
back in the
That
day. Yeah,
Yep.
and I took it. It was actually a wedding present
Yeah.
from I working with a small like consultancy, and they were
Yep.
like, it seems like something you're interested in. Like it'll help us as, our consultancy. Like let's gift you with this course,
Yep.
and hopefully it'll be good for your career and
Yep.
helpful for us. And it ended up being really helpful to getting me my first job, my real first job in like the content marketing SEO space, which was with Siege Media.
Yep.
So I credit, I like to throw a lot of credit back to Brian Dean for kind of jump starting me into
Yeah.
this world. So then the next kind of 6 or 7 years, I worked at Siege Media, which is a great content marketing agency run by Ross Hudgens, who's another great, super smart SEO and was a great kind of mentor and leader. And really, again, like I attribute a lot of the stuff that I know to him and a lot of the great people there, Caroline Gilbert and Alex Hines, to name a few. They were great, mentors and
Yeah.
great content marketers. And yeah, eventually, I had used BuzzStream that whole time I was at Siege. Rowan and I were just talking about this, and then I eventually, I had been reaching out to them like when I was ready to kind of make the shift out of agency into in-house.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, we're not ready for it yet." And then, I took a different job and another job, and then eventually they reached out to me and were like, "Hey, we're ready for you." And I was like, "All right, I'm
Yeah.
good. Let's do it." So that's where I'm at now as BuzzStream. I've been there for almost a year. Yeah, managing their content marketing as a
Oh, yeah.
whole.
No, that's pretty awesome, man. And especially like you said, Brian Dean was one of the most intelligent guy. I don't know what he's really doing these days, but
Yeah.
even today, whenever we get stuck, we got any new trainees coming on board or something, we always tell them, hey, just go and read the stuff on keyword research, his detailed guide, that kind of thing is it's always kind of an evergreen because I believe a lot has been changed since the AI has come through, but the basics are always the same. it is still
Yeah.
the same. I mean, like it's not really a point to actually game Google with anything. So I guess the content marketing concepts you and I guess you probably gonna agree with me as well. Back like 10 years back or 8 years back, and even today, since after the AI, it's still the same. It hasn't been changed. Yes, the pattern has been different so long, but yeah, it's just keep going on.
Yeah, I feel like the overall theme is like whenever people try to game
Yeah,
the system comes back and and fights back, right? Like, and it's been that same way for everything. I mean, even with Brian Dean's like skyscraper technique
yep.
that used to work, but then so many people did it, it didn't work
Yep.
anymore, So
Oh,
it's um yeah, and I think
I
it
can
was
imagine.
funny. One of our first, so like the first podcast guest, I started the podcast, and we talked
Okay.
about this a bit too, with Siege. I mean, sorry, with BuzzStream, and my
Yeah.
first guest was Brian Dean.
Oh yeah.
So it was like this nice full circle thing. But he actually brought that up. I was one of the first things I talked about with him was like these the skyscrapers technique. That was something that he was most famous for, and he was like, I think it was Gary V that said it, marketers ruin everything. It's like I
Yeah.
had this great thing, and after 11, 12 years later, it's definitely not the same. There's a different version of it, but things people in this world that we work in, I feel like, are always out to find the easy
Shortcut.
tips, tactics, and and then they just get exploited, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. They always try to find the hacks in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick one. I mean, like this question was not never on my list. Uh, Vince, what did you think of actually joining BuzzStream rather than open up your own agency or something? Because that's normally what happened in the industry. You get an
Yeah.
exposure, you think of, okay, now it's the time I should go and open my own agency and start signing up the clients to get the take the game to the next level.
Yeah, I did consider that. And I was doing some freelancing. I was at an interesting spot. I When I was leaving Siege Media, I was just so burnt out on an agency life. I was like, I don't want to open an agency if I'm so
Oh,
burnt out. And I was
yeah,
also having my first child at the time. So I was like, I can't manage an agency, and it's like having two kids, right? And
yeah,
then eventually we we're having our second kid. He's a year old now. So like that was around when I joined BuzzStream. It was the same deal. It was like I don't want to start an agency with a
yeah,
newborn. It's
yeah.
just
All
so
right.
I think that's the biggest thing. I've had aspirations. I think
Yeah,
the agency kind of scares me. It sounds,
yeah,
I know
yeah.
how big it is and how plugged in you have to be, but I don't know. There's probably better ways to do it, and a smaller scale is probably something I would do. Have a couple clients that I really um,
A good
can,
client.
yeah, focus on and yeah, build relationships with.
Yeah, that's true. It's a nightmare when you get a piece of client who does not really want to understand thing, who doesn't
Yeah,
have the patience, because SEO is more kind of a patience game as well. So tell us
yeah,
about your typical day at BuzzStream. I mean, like, what does Vince
yeah.
usually do over there?
So
What's your role be like at BuzzStream?
so it's a small team, which is great. I love it. But everybody's very engaged. Um, my day to day, I feel like I have like three buckets that I work on. It's email marketing,
Mm,
podcast, video podcast. I've been wanting to do more videos. I was doing them before. I haven't been doing them as much. So maybe four buckets, and then blog writing is probably the most time I spend. So
yeah,
when I was hired, it was really they hadn't been doing much marketing. They haven't been getting much in the way of organic search,
yeah,
and we wanted to increase trials. So um, it's been an interesting road because I've built a lot of traffic, but we still haven't quite seen the
the
uh,
art.
rollover into like increase in trials and stuff. And
Yeah,
I do think some of that has to do with where the industry is and link building is in general,
yeah,
which we can talk about some more. But
yeah. No, I agree. So digital PRs. I mean, like there is a press release up there, and then there is something the digital PRs when you actually take your linkable asset to you go and pitch out to the journalist to go about it. For the people who doesn't know, can you actually tell us a difference about the PRs, the normal PR thing, which we can normally get it blast on most of the news sites kind of thing, like a low level sites. And then there is a digital PR where you go and pitch out to the high end journalists. So what's the real difference behind that? That's what I told you. It's like a layman thing, but
Yeah.
the actual difference in terms
Yeah.
of success.
Yeah, it's again, I'm almost a year into this job and I still it's getting fuzzier and fuzzier, it seems like.
Uh,
Um, so the way that I define digital PR is um reaching out to top tier journalists for
yep,
coverage and links. And
yep,
you can do that in two different ways. Really, it's those pitchable assets that you're talking about. So like a data study or a trends report or something, or another way people do it is with expert commentary.
yep,
And you get into things like reactive PR, newsjacking, where, maybe a celebrity just got engaged and they have a really big wedding ring, and then your client is a jeweler who you pitch to a high-end journalist saying like our jeweler company, whatever, so and so thinks that this ring probably costs $200,000 or something.
mhm,
Um, and the journalist adds that to their post, as just kind of an added and it gets you a quick link. You don't need an asset around it. So it's kind of those two different things. I think it is blending with that traditional PR these days because, um, you mentioned like sending a press release, like that's something that a lot of digital PRs do. It's like if you have a story,
yep,
why not push it out in as many avenues as you can? So the line keeps blending. I think the only differentiation I would make with traditional PR nowadays is just like traditional encompasses radio and billboards and TV
yep,
and like, maybe the campaigns are a little bigger, whereas digital PR maybe works a little bit closer with SEO
yep,
side of things, whereas traditional is more with working with the branding team. But it depends on where you ask and who. Like I talk to people in the UK, and digital PR is a little more integrated with traditional PR,
yep.
whereas you talk to people in the US and people don't really call it digital PR; they just call it link building or content marketing. So
That's true.
yeah.
So let's take a hypothetical scenario, like I'm the one who really want to get started, want to gain some uh, good journalist link. What kind of features, I mean, like in a bus stream, do you really find it most valuable for streamlining basically the outreach process in that case?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with reaching out to journalists is the personalization. But then also, so like BuzzStream lets you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way that we used to use it all the time. It's like you build a handful of templates based off of kind of the angles that you want. So like maybe you have a post about the best cities for, to travel to or whatever. And
Yep,
maybe it's you have the top cities, the worst cities. So like you're reaching out. So there's two templates that you've created there, but then also being able to personalize those to a point where it doesn't sound like it's just this canned uh, bulk email that you're sending
yep,
out to everyone, an
yep.
email blast to every single journalist. Because that I think is the difference that we're seeing these days in what's effective
Oh,
is that kind of
When,
personalization.
so when you say personalization, what kind of data we can actually get it via bus stream? So let's say I want to run a campaign on weight loss supplements as an example.
Mhm.
So how the process really gonna be? Is that the bus stream gonna help me to find out the best sites as well? And then all the relevant personalization metrics along with that. So can you tell
So
us
it's
about that?
right. So it's funny you bring that up. Um, we're on the way to that, working on features that will get that close, I think.
Yep,
Currently, like we're really experimenting with
yep,
incorporating AI into the tool.
yep,
Right now, the tool works best as kind of a research and evaluation tool
yep,
where um, what happens is, you could do this two ways. It's like if you have a media list, which a lot of people do, a media database,
Yep.
um, people work in conjunction with like a Cision or something, or I'm not sure what the big media databases are in India, but you have a list of journalists, you can
Yep.
import that into BuzzStream and it'll pull things like, the metrics of the site itself telling
Yep.
you like the DA, it'll pull in contact information that it finds.
Yep.
Um, and that can really help you kind of hone in on like, okay, what is going to be the most relevant and what is going to be the most impact, so high impact. So, what kind of search volume does or sorry, what kind of organic search does the site get? What kind of, yeah, DR, DA, all those metrics get pulled in. So you can kind of cull the list a bit and narrow it down. And then, yeah, then it's just about being able to send out these emails. The way that I like to do it is I go journalist by journalist
Yep.
and craft, even if it's just a single line that is something unique to that journalist.
Yep.
Um, it can be, when I say the word personalization, it can mean a lot of different things. It can mean just getting their name right.
Yep.
It can mean spelling the company right, the name of the publication the right way, but it also can mean, maybe they just said something on social media that you happen to catch, or maybe they just posted some really interesting article or story. Um, Comment on that, So I'm more about quality of outreach versus
Yep.
quantity. So I would rather spend the time to send 50 emails than 200 emails, right? Where I can
So,
put something a little personalized that makes it stand out in the inbox a bit.
right. So when you say the names and all that, is that like, can you rely on those names? Or do you think, I mean, like it's just a presumption only that they are making it via the different kind of a sources they might have been crawled? Um, how much you
Yeah, so right. When you're working with a media database, I always recommend checking, double
Oh,
checking. Something that is helpful with the way that BuzzStream works is like you can import that list and go through one by one, and they have this nice flow where
okay.
it has this like Chrome extension where you see the
Yep.
site on the side, and then the BuzzStream
Yes.
database, it syncs up there, so
Well,
you don't have to leave the
yeah,
site.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was
So
always there. I mean, like that BuzzStream extension, you can literally see, you can add any site inside the BuzzStream as well. I remember.
yeah, the
Yeah,
buzz marker they call it. Yeah.
Buzz marker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a big plus, I think, if you're doing a lot of outreach in the way that I used to do, at least. It's like not having to leave the site and like
Yep.
you frees up, you don't have a million tabs open, like that kind of
Right.
stuff. But yeah, I think there is a big need to, and again, like this is something that we're working on building this new feature that should be coming out kind of soon. I'm not sure when this is going to go live, but it kind of works through some of those lists and some of the problems with media databases and media lists. But you can certainly get around that by building your own media lists,
Yep.
which is something I spent a lot of time writing a post about. Because when I worked at Siege, we never used media databases. It was
Yeah.
always, I'm going to look at what competitors are ranked, where they're getting links. I'm looking at similar stories to the one, weight loss supplements. You said, like, who's writing about weight loss right now? It can be as easy as a Google search. And you pull in, again, like you can pull all the stuff into BuzzStream and go through the list that way. But like you do a Google search for like the past week, who's written about weight loss, and then you filter through that and you figure
Same
out
as
the high
same as like
PA
Google.
site. Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I like that approach better just because you can't really rely on some of the media
Right.
databases. I mean, it's no fault of their own too. Journalists just they move publications so quickly and they
Right.
move industries. They might be writing about weight loss one day and then now they're writing about, politics or something.
I mean, like in case of journalists, it's still different, but I had a different kind of an experience with these outreach things in the past couple of years. Actually, every time we try to do the outreach, no matter how good your linkable assets is, every second email you're gonna get it is the people, bloggers asking for the dollars for that. So it is something, a very common thing going on in the industry, I guess, like that we need to get them paid to actually get secure a link over there. And once it's gets secured, I don't know for how long it really gonna get secured,
I
or how many
know.
do get injected between the in the article itself, because yeah, a lot has been changed, I guess, in the terms of blogging.
Yeah, and I'd say in the past 3 or 4 years, I've really noticed that where, like, when I first started, yeah, you could do an infographic outreach,
Yes.
like a link asset like that, and you get links that actually matter, have an impact.
Yep.
But then slowly people started to realize, like, hey, I could charge for this, right? And then slowly Google now, I mean, in the past year, it's been crazy, right? Like all the helpful content update, the Google leak, you're starting to really see um, this shift away from that whole
Right.
there's whole strategies. I mean, even like the guest posting sites, link
Yeah.
exchanges,
Yeah.
like all those networks that exist where people just have these sites that they you have to pay to get on. I just don't think they're worth anything anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or
No, that's
or there's
true.
very few, left.
I agree.
So that's
So
where my whole message has been like, it seems like digital PR is what Google is prioritizing right now because it's the only thing that you can do without necessarily exploiting at so
yeah.
far.
So SEO that works. What do you think? What kind of SEO is actually working these days? I guess
Uh,
so.
um,
After the AI,
great.
because the people they feel it really crazy. I mean, like just press a button and 1,000 articles gonna get dripped off on a
Yeah.
website, no matter what. If the site gonna get tanked the second day, but people are doing it. They're just
Yeah.
taking a lazy approach. And recently, what I did few tests myself as well. I asked my content writers. I said, like, all right, let's go back to the basics. Forget about what the content was, take the data from it, but write it down the content the handwritten way. And trust me or not, that actually worked really well. So somehow I believe, I don't know that our ways of doing the using the AI content is not good, or what is there, or we get too much lazy about it. But what's your take about that? That what
I
kind of
mean,
content Google loves these days?
yeah, I to address the AI thing, I think that the thing that people run into, like you can have this mindset. At one point on Reddit, well, no, sorry, this was LinkedIn.
Yep,
I mean, listeners might be familiar with this. I'm sure you are, the SEO heist, right? Where this guy like created all this SEO content. He
yep,
found all the keywords that his competitors were doing, and he wrote AI content for all of them. All of a sudden, he saw this big hockey stick growth
yep,
overnight, and
yep.
he was bragging about it. And then all of a sudden, yeah,
Yeah,
Google got him, right? He
yeah,
got flew too close to the sun. So that I think, I mean, it's obvious, right? It's like you just got to do the work, right?
yeah.
Google wants you to do the work. There's no way to, unless you're a huge publisher, which they seem to still be kind of um,
They can
giving
imagine.
some preferential treatment to. Yeah, um, you got to really do the work, and I think what we're seeing now, as of September 4th, I think it was, when this last kind of helpful
Helpful
content.
content update. Yep, yep,
Yeah, a lot of the sites that were hit in the March helpful content update, the real big like helpful content system update was like, the way that I explain is a lot of good sites were caught in the friendly fire. Google saw a lot of these junky sites trying to do exactly what you're talking about, where it's like using AI only. And so they had to take a big, swing at these that weren't sites that weren't doing, the expertise, authority, trust, signals, all this stuff, experience, all the stuff that they've been talking about for years. They finally were able to address it, but a lot of good sites got caught in the fire.
yep,
Um, but they, since September 4th, I think you're seeing all of those sites that were actually still doing it the right way, but just got caught in the friendly fire are actually recovering, or most of them. So I think the learning there is like, I mean, it's obvious, it's what Google's been saying, the expertise, authority, trust, experience, the
mm,
EAT signal, not signals. They don't want you to call them signals. The EAT kind of idea, evaluation, maybe you could call it, of like making sure that your content is just good stuff for
yep,
users and not just
yep.
written for search. I mean, it's a simple answer, but I'd say the more tactical thing is data-driven studies also seem to be
Yep,
really what I would recommend everybody do. So be that, you do like the easiest way is like a platform like SurveyMonkey or YouGov, OnePoll. There's a bunch out there that are cheaper. We used to even use Google Surveys back in the day with Siege. Um, you put together what if you're working in weight loss, survey, 10 questions is might be all you need. It's like 1,000 people, 2,000 people. It'll maybe cost you $1,000 or something, but
yep,
you have this data that then you can package into a cool report. You pull a
yep,
bunch of statistics. Um, those statistics posts are things that get a lot of links organically, if you time a search volume, but also just having this fresh data is another thing that Google wants
yep,
because and even get outside of Google, the chat GPTs of the world, the perplexities, we're reaching this point where AI is running out of new.
ideas.
Yeah, right. So like the more you can feed new, fresh information that hasn't been written anywhere,
Yep.
that's what they want. That's what these large language models want, and that's what they're going to try to. I believe at least that's where they're going to try to prioritize is this new content that's coming out that's really fresh and not just regurgitating existing stuff that they have.
So yeah, no, that's true. That's a very solid point in itself. So just the final few questions, when Simon, like you spoke about
Yeah.
EEITs. When you are writing the content, I want to know your version on it. That when you're writing a content, let's say for BuzzStream, what kind of EAT factors do you actually add in your content piece as such?
Yeah, great question, Rowan. When the helpful content thing came out, they introduced what they called there was like this self-assessment checklist that they
Yep,
put out.
yep,
And it doesn't work anymore. I even had this ChatGPT evaluation thing that I created based
yep,
off of that,
yep,
where I would say grade my content. Like I would write it and throw it in there
yep,
and just grade it for all of those evaluation points. And it's
yep,
stuff like is this written for search or is it written for people?
yep,
But it gets way more nuanced into things like, are you talking with personal experience?
yep,
Um, is this the kind of content that could appear in an encyclopedia,
yep,
or dictionary? Like going further into these topics to the point where the way that we talk about it at BuzzStream, and this is Stephen Panico, our CMO, is I don't know if you curse on here, but get shit done. Like, is this content that can help people get it done?
yep,
So we want to give them insights to the point where they can take this and go do something with it, right? So that might be I have the benefit of access to all the customers that use BuzzStream. I can reach out to them and say, like I have this built-in relationship where I'm like, hey, you use BuzzStream, writing about this topic. Do you have any examples of XYZ? And people jump on it, right? Because agencies, you want to get your stuff out there and
yep,
you can get links for your clients or whatever. So it works out nicely for me because I can ask for that. But I am getting more and more into kind of soliciting expert advice too from, like beyond my own
yep.
advice, expert
Oh,
advice from other agencies that have done this stuff because
oh, yeah.
it helps give that expertise. The last thing I'll say is I did notice a big shift, I think, in my rankings, I would say, or traffic
Yep.
when I started really focusing on writing in the first person.
Oh, yeah.
So I, we, I've tried this tactic instead of just saying you can do this tactic or, a
As a
digital
first
PR tactic is, yeah. So the more I talk about it in the first
and then
person, and I think this is something that Cyrus Shepard from Zippy, he is a great um, evaluation of like help the sites and helpful content that won, I think back in March. And that was one of them. Like well, one of the biggest like correlative factors was like they talk in the first person, which makes sense, right? Because that's what Google wants experience. So that was a big kind of aha moment to me. It's like, yeah, of course, like I should be talking about me and the experience I've had, and
Yep.
um I've built up this expertise and kind of trust signals off page, right? Like I've written about this stuff. I have author bylines where it says that I'm in content marketing and
Yep.
SEO and PR.
Yep.
So I mean that's a big part of it, but like you can't you can't fake it these days, I think is kind of the biggest
Ah,
thing.
that's very true about it because that IAB and that kind of thing that actually builds out the experience in the overall thing that Google see. Like the person is talking from their own experience, how they did it, and what kind of results and everything they achieved. And on top of that, obviously, it includes the expertise as well, especially if you have same kind of a content, or maybe you have done a podcast, or maybe you have done somewhere else on a similar kind of a topics. Because in eventually, see, if a tool like Perplexity, if they can crawl the web and they can create all the data, how hard it is for Google to create the data and fetch all the information. Because when I put your name Perplexity this morning, because I use that one these days, it's just so much easy to get create the data from everywhere. It just created all your podcasts, it created all your interviews and that kind of thing. That means like their tool actually goes out and the crawlers actually crawl the data. And I guess in the similar fashion, the Google actually see the things as well, that they can come and they can see. Like for example, if I'm going to publish this podcast, if I'm going to write it down, the hey, mastering content marketing with Vince Nero, and then Google gonna crawl it, and they can obviously help the in building out the expertise signals as well. So
Yeah.
eventually, these kind of things are really important, I guess, these days. Just a very final question, Vince. I mean, like, how do you go about generate content ideas to for your next blog post at BuzzStream, for example? How do you go about it?
Yeah,
Is it
so
Survey Monkey, you said, to go out and find out the best topics of people from your survey, or is it something else, or it just comes in your mind?
yeah,
I need to go
I think
about it.
it's a couple, right. It's a couple different things that I'm messing around with. So like when I first started, I did kind of the standard keyword research.
Yeah,
Kind of looked at some competitors in the space and where they're winning. And I'm almost kind of almost finished with that initial kind of pass.
yep,
Um, like these kind of content gap analysis. I
yep,
use Ahrefs. I like a lot of their tools. So I did a lot of that. And now I'm getting a little more into customer just problems, and to the point where like I've done two specific things that have kind of helped um, in our newsletter. And
yep,
we have a newsletter now, and that was one of like the bigger things I wanted to get off the ground early, um, because that you can get customer insights. And one of the things I ask when people sign up is just like, what are problems you have?
yep.
What do you want
Pain
to learn
points.
about? And
Yep,
it's funny, like I haven't gotten a ton of responses, but the ones I do are people who, are very small businesses, and they're like new to the whole thing, and they're just like, what should I be doing? Like how should I? Um, and so that's one thing. And then the other one is we have our customer service manager here, Shira, who talks with customers all day, like the people that are new, the onboarding,
yep,
people who are just like asking a question about it, should they even sign up for the trial, and
yep.
then people who have had BuzzStream for a long time but are like, messing with different things. And we do these check-ins, quarterly check-ins with some of the bigger clients, just kind of or bigger customers to understand the problems they're having with the tool, but then also just, yeah, like where they're seeing success. So I've instituted kind of these biweekly check-ins with her to
Yep.
kind of just give me a data dump on like
Yeah.
what where
What they
she
want to know.
yeah, and like where she feels the industry is going, even because it's helpful to understand what's successful for people.
Yep.
And it's one of the reasons I've been making kind of a shift into more digital PR content versus the more traditional, like writing about broken link building and writing about,
Yeah.
insertions and stuff. Like I have that content written, but I'm like, I don't see a lot of people utilizing it. It seems like I want to
So
try to ride the digital PR wave.
So when you say like a digital PR kind of a content, that is more to go about the evergreen kind of a content rather than the um, software focus. Is that that includes the pain points of an agency, like how what kind of marketing channels they can use to take their agency to the next level? Is that kind of a topics you're talking about?
Well, um, I'd say with the digital PR, it's more right now, at least, it's more the focusing on the tactics and how to employ the things that are working for these big digital PR agencies. Like
Yep.
every digital PR agency, they have these set kind of offerings that they do, be it, it's like mention outreach, unlinked mentions, but then also the core deliverables are usually these like expert commentaries, and then also like these hero campaigns where it's whatever these big large ones are, usually data driven things, where they'll analyze all TikTok trends, and they'll put together
Yeah,
this big trends
I got
report
it.
in fashion or
Yep.
something. um so yeah, I mean, that I think is the difference, at least where I'm at right now, is like tactical advice seems to be what people like.
Yeah.
um but that's different for me because I'm, at this SaaS company, and like if I was writing for, a software company, yeah, you just gotta kind of understand like what the challenges are for the customers right now. And keywords will get you there in some regard, but like I think the most successful stuff is probably the stuff that's not in the keywords.
That's true. That's very true about it. But yeah, that's there's another thing that we need to start writing about the topics which can actually help us to get the kind of a business as well. Because I remember it took me a long time to really realize that um, I started writing about the topics, which was bringing a lot of traffic to my blog at one time, and then I noticed like, hey, that traffic is actually not getting converted, so I probably need to change the angle. I have to start writing about the topics which is more related to my own thing, which flirts on my expertise, and that really helps. And in that particular case, yes, I guess the people has got a good linkable assets, like good content or something, but they don't know the way to actually buzz out that content up in on the web. And that's where I guess the tools like BuzzStream can really help them out to streamline the entire process A to Z.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last thing I guess I should say is like there are going to be these instances, and I feel that even as big as BuzzStream is, it's like you can write great content, but if no one sees it, it's like the if a
On
tree
point.
falls in the forest,
Yeah.
yeah. So the content promotion distribution thing is such an important piece. I just read this whole book. Are you familiar with Ross Simmons? He speaks a lot at conferences. He runs an agency called Foundation.
Okay.
Um, yeah, you should definitely connect with him. I feel like he would be a good guest to have. But he wrote a great book called um, oh man, no, I don't want to screw it
Yeah.
up.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
create once, distribute forever. I just finished it reading
Okay.
because he
Great
was
one
on a
distributor.
podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, create once, distribute forever. And it's just this idea that like you need to actively distribute your stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
his angle was more like you can create a finite amount and redistribute it forever. But I think it just gets back to that idea that like you need to get in front of the right people, and
Right.
organic search is one way to do it, but
Yeah.
not,
No,
and it's
that's
a
I
problem that some
completely
CEOs,
Yeah,
yeah, if you
I
focus
completely
on,
agree with this. That it is rather than just doing what Brian and Dean used to say, like publish and pray approach. It is really very important that we should actually go and get that content in front of the right kind of a people so that it can get a more better mention about the things. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
makes
So, and even understanding where your customers are spending their time. I mean, again, like if you're an SEO and you think about content marketing, it's really easy to get stuck in the SEO of it all. And like search is the only way I'm going to get customers because it's just moving away from that, I think,
true,
these
very
days,
true about it.
especially with ChatGPT and all,
Yes.
Claude and all this.
Yep.
So,
No, that's true. Hmm, that was great, Vince. So, anyone who wants to know more about you, want to read your stuff, and want to watch your podcast or videos, or anything, what's the best way for that? Is that LinkedIn or is it somewhere else?
Yeah, I would suggest checking out the BuzzStream newsletter. That's like
Oh,
where I put all of our podcasts and
yep.
articles. So it's just
Oh, yeah.
buzzstream.com/newsletter.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then also, yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Not as much on Twitter, although I try to stay on there. But yeah, look me up
Same.
on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat.
Yeah, no, I agree to that, man. Mm, thanks for that, Vince. I really appreciate the time you have given us today, man. Really good stuff we discussed, and a lot of things we do have in common, like writing SEO that works. I took that course as well. Took the very first version. I didn't take the second version. I know like he changed a lot in SEO that works 2.0, but I didn't
Yeah,
go through that one. But
yeah,
yeah, I completely agree. He's a smart guy. And at the same time, it is really very important to have a tools like BuzzStream or even a manual outreach. But whatever the way it is, the more important is to actually take the content, whatever we have published, to get in front of the right kind of an audience. Otherwise, that content is sitting up here. There's already a lot of noise on the web, you know that, especially
yeah.
after AI, everything has been changed. The whole AI evolution has changed the stuff. So yeah, I guess like a content marketing has got a kind of a rebirth again with the AI. So yes,
Yeah,
definitely. It's really helpful, man. Thanks for that,
yeah.
for your time and efforts you've come to the podcast about it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This has been great. I could talk about this stuff all day long.
Oh yeah, I agree. I can imagine that. All right. Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks for having. Yeah.